Hey, ladies and gents, it's Zem back with a iconic plane review, and this is the Focke-Wulf 190. In 1934, the German Air Force was looking for a modern fighter, so they had a competition, and of course the Bf-109 won. Kurt Tank, the designer of the Focke-Wulf, submitted a design, was simply denied. The other one was the HE-112 that's actually in game two. That was also beat, and of course the Bf-109 won it, the competition. In 1937, the German Air Force decided that they wanted another fighter to fight alongside the Bf-109 in case the newer designs that were coming from Britain, France, and then, of course, America, if they were actually had to meet these planes, they wanted something a little bit better than what the 109 was. So Kurt Tank decided that he was thinking at the time he had an interesting idea. And what I'm not sure to say is necessarily interesting. It was kind of along the lines of almost like the Russians. What he did was took a radial engine, which for the most part was superior to the inlines for actually taking damage. The problem is that it wasn't really used in Europe, and nobody had really used the inline, the radial engine, because it was considered to be too big and the airplane would be too slow. He designed it with a different kind of cowling, new propeller hub, and was able to get some really nice performance out of it. So with this aircraft that he had in mind, that he was designing this with a radial engine, he was designing for something that was going to be easily fixed and repaired, could operate at forward air bases, and was rugged, which was kind of an unusual thinking at the time. So that's why you see some of these odd designs in this aircraft. You'll notice the stance of the landing gear, considering that changes compared to the Bf-109. This aircraft was a pain in the ass to land, very dangerous landing. The Focke-Wulf solved that by, of course, spreading out the landing gear. This big radial engine could take damage. The inline engines, if they were shot, would oftentimes just simply stop working. The radial engine, of course, could actually take damage, and there was really no. I mean, of course, if you shot it enough, it was going to, stop, of course. But for the most part, it was a much more rugged engine than the inlines. So Kurt Tank built these planes to be not only rugged, but also to be, simply awesome. I mean, in the air, they were the most pilots considered the Focke-Wulf superior to the Bf-109, just about in everything except for altitude performance, and it was also considered superior to the Spitfire and everything but maneuverability. That's how good this aircraft was. He also used one that was unusual at the time, almost all electric systems. Most of the time, everything was hydraulic. I mean, he had even firing the guns were electric. So he kind of made some really interesting advances with this aircraft, and it really became, toward the end of the war, one of the better, if not the best, fighter produced by Germany. This is the A-5 version, which is in the war. In the early parts of the war, they figured out that this thing could actually carry a fair amount of ordnance. So this A-5, they actually moved the engine ahead, which was changed the center of balance on the aircraft, which allowed them to mount more ordnance, effectively turning this into a really nice fighter bomber. And in the game, and this is what we got. So that's really the history of this plane. I mean, if you look at if you read about it, I mean, just the sheer number of different variants and the things they could do with this aircraft was just amazing. So what we have in game is the Focke-Wulf 190 A-5, and this is actually considered a multi-role. I hate using the word multi-role in this game because that's kind of a modern term. These aircraft were simply fighter bombers, and what we have in this aircraft, which is a really nice, is the sheer amount of firepower this thing carries. It carries 4 20 millimeters, and it also carries 2 13 millimeters. It also can mount 2 rockets with a fair amount of damage potential, and it also carries 4 bombs. So yeah, this thing really, like I said, for a multi-role, You know, it's not quite as good as say one of the Corsair in the multi-role, but it's pretty close. You play this thing as an energy fighter. It has great altitude performance. Well, not great altitude performance. It has great boost. Once you get up around 7,000-8,000 feet, it kind of turns into a duck. So yeah, but otherwise than that, it does really well. Well, at least with speed, and the boost performance of it is very good. And you'll watch in the video. Now, I typically play this aircraft as a heavy hunter. I like to go after heavies. It has the speed to keep up with them, and it has this impressive firepower to really take off the HP. And of course, the other one is bombers and ground attack. If you have to get that low, you can take ground attack planes out really quick. And of course, the bomber formations. This thing eats bombers just ridiculously good. Excuse me. And with being in the fighter bomber that it is, you can get down low and take out some targets. You'll see in the video what I'm talking about as I do it. I run improved radiator to try to keep that boost always up. I'm a terrible person with the boost. I'm always on that thing, and I'm always at 0. That's just, I get too much. I think I play too many tanks. The second one, I have concealed livery. I reduce the efficiency of MEAA and defensive gunfire by 30%. And you'll see in the video what I'm talking about. This is, for me, a heavy and a bomber hunter. And that's typically why I usually play it as much as possible. Of course, I will go after other craft if I have to. But those are the two I typically focus on. I do run the improved reflector sight just because of the spread on the guns. Definitely helps with the dispersion and getting everything into that circle. So, this actually was one of my favorite aircraft before 2.0 because it was just so much fun. It was a great zoom and boom plane, and it still is a pretty good, even in the changed meta, it does still pretty well. And if you, like I said, you play it to its strengths, you're going to do well in it. I'm going to be bringing up the replay for you here. I guess we can check out the new stat bar they have over here. I just hate this thing. I don't like it. Survivability compared to what we don't know. Airspeed compared to what we don't know. Maneuverability compared to what we don't know. Yeah, I just don't like these. But gun armor is actually pretty good at 25. Bombs and rockets, of course, has another 14. Survivability isn't bad. Airspeed is also well. Maneuverability really does suck on this thing, so don't attempt a dogfight with it. Use your boost and use your speed to deal with other light fighters, or deal with light fighters. And altitude performance is, once again, meh. It's not the best, but it's not bad. So I will be bringing up a game for you, or actually a couple games for you guys, and give you guys a little bit of show and tell what this thing can do. All right, guys, back with the first game in the Focke-Wulf 190, and I'm going to do a little bit of everything here in this one. I'm going to be doing some ground targets and whatnot. Since it's a fighter bomber, you can do that. 20 seconds of boost on this thing, so it's got impressive boost, impressive firepower, and it does a lot of things real well. We're going to go over here to the command center. I'm going to get a little bit of altitude here to help, of course, like I said, energy fighter. I like to have altitude just about everything else. And of course you can turn that into speed, and this thing is very, very fast. So we're going to drop in here on the boomerangs. I got one coming up here. And with these energy fighters, you don't always have to get the kill. Just knocking off as much HP off these planes as you can is always nice. So I put a nice set into him, finish him off, flip down, and now I got some ground targets here, and I'm going to drop my 4 bombs on that and see if I can knock that out. Of course, that brings me down right here on top of the F4U1, and I'm going to stay right on his tail because he's busy and not paying attention. God, those guns, when they hit, it just does a nice job. So I got the ground target, and now I'm after, of course, this other multi-roll. Finish him off, and we get into a close one there. So we got HS-129B coming in here, and I'm going to drop in on him, and I'm going to start pummeling. Like I said, this thing does a real nice job against large HP targets. I mean, with those 420s and those 213 millimeters, drop in a couple rockets, it was really nice here. So I'm going to boost back up in here. I dropped a little lower than I wanted to, but you greedy the way I do. It is what it is. So I'm looking at Ed. Ed is flying here. He's flying away. Put some rounds into him. Start nailing him. Pull over. I'm not going to drop completely down on him. We're going to try to stay up a little bit here. I got me a Yak 7 coming in here, and I'm going to try to put a nice pass in on him, get a nice pass in on Mark, and I'm not sticking with him. I'm pulling back through. I'm boosting up and over a little bit here. He's behind me, got the Bullfighter coming in, and I'm going to, of course, like I said, I play this thing, I love playing this thing as a heavy hunter. It does a really nice job with its altitude performance and, of course, with its boost. I'm also terrible with the boost because I'm always on it for some reason. I think I got played too many tanks because I'm always pushing on that forward key. So, Thunder Chicken's back here. I'm going to see if I can get a good run on in him, finish him off. He's going away from me, which is always nice with the with these energy fighters. Finish him off. Spitfire 1 is dead. Bullfighter Ed's coming back, and I'm kind of hanging out here. I'm more interested in here. I'm waiting for the bombers to pop up. We're already up 2 objectives on them, and we are gaining objectives really quickly over them. So I wasn't expecting a very long game here. So they finally get the command center, and we got incoming fighters here. You know, and I can hang around and fight these guys, but bombers really bother me because it seems like they're fairly easy to turn, of course, flip caps. So, and a lot of times people are always paying attention, and I've had too many caps flipped otherwise. And then, like I said, this thing is made with my setup on here with the livery and whatnot. It does really well against these bomber formations or anything with a rear gunner. And of course, with the 420s and the 213 millimeters, it just literally ripped through a bomber. And you'll see here what I'm talking about here when I come out of the first set of head-ons here with this bomber here. And I'm literally going to I'm going to take off most of his HP. Yeah, actually all of his HP in that first pass, which lets me come around here on the backside and finish off him. I'm going to do a little bit of wait till my guns cool off a little bit. Yeah, and I'm going to see if I can get me a Rocketeer. Rockets on this actually are not too bad. They fly, fairly well, fairly straight. I think one of the other videos I'm going to show you, I think I do get a Rocketeer with this plane. So, waiting for my guns to cool off. Coming on the last one here, and pummel him, finish him off, and then down we go. One left, flip up and over. Boost is built back up. I got this guy, one guy left, and my heavy fighters don't seem to be killed, so I'm flipping over, and they finally finish him off. So we're still up. Bombers are down, and I'm going to head back and see if I can get this next set of next bunch of bombers. And you sort of notice, like I said, with my setup on the plane, rear guns on those heavy bombers and the heavy fighters really don't do a whole lot to this plane. That concealed livery really makes a difference. And once again, doing a head-on with this airplane is not a problem with the sheer amount of firepower. There's a lot of times you can knock out one of these planes, one of these bombers right off the bat, just like that. And of course that helps when you get in behind them, that you're not going to get shot by 5, you're just going to get shot by 4. Pull on the last one, finish him off quickly, flip over. Yeah. Wait till those guns cool off a little bit, and then just start pummeling them. Finish him off. Guns haven't really heated up that much. Nice and cool now. Pulling on here, and yeah. And you can just, like I said, watch the numbers go off. Them 420s and those 213s do such a nice job on these big HP targets. So finish off my last bomber, and I'm looking over here. I'm also looking for targets. No bombers are currently on their way in here, so then I noticed the Bullfighter coming up. I'm already at altitude. Boost over a little bit here. I was actually thinking about going after the Ju-88. Actually, I do go after the Ju-88. I don't know what I'm talking about here. Boost up here to 5,700 feet. Lead him a little bit. Finish him off. Yeah. And just in a full health bomber, this thing just eats. No problem. Flip over. And I'm looking for some targets here. Now, they're all ground attack planes, and I don't have the time. I'm already at altitude, so I'm not going to drop down and deal with them. I would if there was a real threat to our objective, but we're already up to 370 to 135, so it really wasn't any need for me to drop over. And I'm now more interested in finish off a few more of these bombers before the end of the squall line. So these guys are coming in. Get one more nice little pass in here, knock off a bit more damage before we gain total control over the objectives. So that was a nice 9,600 combat points. Like I said, you play to its strength, and this thing does really well against heavies, and it does really well against bombers. Anything with big HP targets and somewhat low maneuverability, this thing loves to eat them. Of course, you can also play it as just a pure energy fighter, and of course you can once again go after light fighters if you absolutely have to. So one more game, and I'll be bringing that right about now. Alright guys, back with the second game in the FW-190, and once again I'm just playing to its strengths, and this is what I love about this plane. With that sheer amount of firepower, it does such a nice job against, and I can't harp on this enough. I mean, to really be successful in these kind of planes, you got to play to their strengths, and you got to play to a little bit more along the lines of what they're good at, and not necessarily what you want to do. And sometimes it affects your score to a certain degree, not going down and shooting out a bunch of light fighters and that kind of stuff. But it is what it is. I play to win as much as I can here, and this is what this plane does well, which of course, like I said, is heavy fighter, hunter suppression, and bomber suppression, which it does excellently. So as well, and not just as that, just the ground attacks, of course, too. Anything with HP, big HP, this is what this plane does really well. So we win that command center, and I'm typing to my team to let them know what's going on. So I could go over here to the center and play off the Air Force Base and just mix it up, but at the same time there's nobody currently going after the bombers. So you see me here looking down, and I could drop down there and of course mix it up, but I'm playing the role of this aircraft, or what this aircraft does exceptionally well, which of course is to beat up on large HP pool planes, and in this case the bomber formation that is currently coming at me. So I leave where I would get more combat points by leaving the fighters that are currently fighting over the center and going once again straight after my incoming bomber formation here, because I'm the only one doing it, right? So if I didn't do this, and if I would have turned right there, these bombers would have been left to do what they want. They would have flown right up into the cap, and of course bombed it, turned the cap, and there would have been nothing done about it. So almost knocked out the B-17 with the first pass. Get him turned around here, flip over here, and start pummeling them. And 420s and those two 13s just absolutely kill this. And how that mock rocket I have missed, I have no idea. So I'm back on it here. That concealed livery, it's amazing how much damage you don't get with having it mounted by these rear gunners. Coming back in here on the B-17 and back on it. Guns are cooled off. And they just start literally heating up just about the time you finish off one of these bombers. So last bomber here, and he's dead. And I catch him, like I said, once again before they get to my objective. Turn it back around, and I haven't really lost a whole lot of health. Obviously with the multi-rolls they have more health, and then for of course of how I have the airplane set up, I'm playing to the role of the equipment that I have. So I'm looking behind me here, and I'm checking to see what I got incoming. Nothing that's going to be getting up to my altitude or dealing with me. The BF-109 would have been a threat, but luckily you run into a Spitfire, so I don't have to worry about it, and I can deal exclusively once again with another fighter formation or bomber formation that's coming in here. By the time, of course, I got lucky that there was a B-38 decided to help me out here, a bot, and I also have an A-5 that's coming in. So between the three of us, we should have very much, almost no problem at all finishing these bombers off. Flip around, make a pass on that, almost finish him off. Finish that guy off, flip over, low health first. Yeah, finish him off. He was the one I actually nailed in the first pass. Got the last bomber here, and of course just pummel him to death, slowly but surely. And we have the last bomber here, and I got 2 rockets. Let's see what I can do. Yeah, right there. Got my Rocketeer. Pretty happy. So, pull up. I have a light fighter down below me and a heavy fighter off to the side over there, so I'm not going to deal with them. Once again, my job, my role, how I have the plane set up, what my pilot skills and all, is of course to deal with this. That's about the time I noticed that we have an issue at the mining plant. We're going to flip it here for another 80 right there. We jump up, but I don't want to lose that. I really don't want to lose that. So I drop off the bombers, hoping maybe that somebody's going to pick them up. Heavy fighter just ignores it. Light fighter, he's trying, but he is not going to have the firepower to really deal with them bombers. So I drop down here on the Ju-88, and I'm going to see if I can, of course, finish him off here. Pummel him, yeah, very quickly. Finish him off, and of course we secured the mining plant from being captured. Back up, and with 1 light fighter on those bombers. So I mean, this was kind of a, we had to choose, and I would rather keep the mining plant over the command center anyway. So we are already up a fair amount, and our mining plant, of course, is once again in about a minute going to flip another 80 for us. So I really don't have that problem. I'm pinging out there, praying that somebody else other than the light fighter is going to take him out. But it doesn't look like that anybody is going to attempt to help him other than, yeah. So back in on the bombers. I'm going to have to do something here. I finally got up to a reasonable altitude. Get a nice pass on the first bomber. Stall out as I'm trying to get up there. And this is what really kind of sucks. Having to drop down that low altitude to pick up that and finish off that ground attack plane leaves me too low and too slow to really catch up with these bombers. I might, like I said, get this last guy here in the rear and finish him off before he dies. So I do get him. Our mining plant's going to flip one more time and put us literally out of reach. So now I'm just trying to catch. I'm nosing over here a little bit, trying to build my speed back up. Hopefully to catch him, at least to get a couple more bombers before we'd lose it. And that's about the time I noticed the multi-roll coming in here, and they've already flipped the plant, so it's no point in chasing him anymore. So I drive in here on the P-47B. He's heading toward the mining plant, and I'm just going to try to, of course, to nail him. Now P-47B, that is also not a real good turner, so the Focke-Wulf actually can keep up with him, and I don't have a problem going head-to-head with him with all these 20s. Put another nice round into him, flip over, and I'm going to try to stay with him and try to finish him off because the squall line is up. I have the health, and I also have, like I said, once again, the firepower to do it. Flip over on him. Almost get him, and that's about the time I noticed, oh yeah, here comes the Corsair. Sneaky little devil. Flipping over one more time, I thought maybe there's a chance I could finish off the P-47 before I got nailed, but he's right in on my tail. And there's not a whole lot I can do here other than try to squirm my way away from the Corsair. But, like I said, he got the drop on me. There's not much I can do. So I'm just going to probably just die. The other guy already took off, and of course he finishes me off. But it doesn't really matter because in 30 seconds, as soon as that thing flips, we were going to win. So it was a good game. I mean, it was a decent game, not the greatest. So remember, play these planes to their role. Or what you plan on doing with the planes, and you're going to be more successful. You're going to get more combat points if you're playing the plane how you think it should, literally how it should be played, of course, and how you set the plane up. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do with the video, is showing you how I set my plane up and what I was trying to get, what I'm going to do with it to get the wins. So I guys hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll be having more coming along here shortly.